Welcome. It's always great to see a good crowd here. I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order on September 17th, 2024, and ask our city clerk to please call roll.
Commissioner Guest?
Present.
Commissioner Henderson?
Present.
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Wilson?
Present.
Mayor Bray?
Present. I'll ask Commissioner Guest to do the invocation, and we'll remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Lord God, thank you for the day, and thank you for each and every person here, and just thank you for all that you do and the beautiful day you've given us. And prepare our hearts tonight and give us discernment and bless our time together. We love you in Jesus' name.
Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Manager, are there any deletions to the agenda?
Mayor, none this evening.
Okay, before we get started, the first thing on the agenda is public comments. We have a number of people here that want to make public comments, so I'm just going to take them in the order that that I have. I would just remind those making public comments that you have 3 minutes, and just to make sure that everybody remains respectful and with the right decorum. And please state your name and whether or not you're a city resident and any group that you may represent. So I'll start out with Ms. Simpson, Tina Simpson.
Good evening. My name is Tina Simpson. I formerly lived at 121 Fountain Avenue. I belong to the Jefferson Street Area Association. I have been a member there for many years. I am here regarding the 200 Fountain Avenue rezoning. I understand that it's already been approved and everything. I would like to request that the commissioners table it for another time. I know it's a delay, but I feel that the last planning commission meeting that they had, the public was not allowed to speak. I don't understand why, to voice their concerns. I know 4 or 5 of us showed up at that meeting. They did not even give us a chance to speak, to give our points across. I do know that all the members of the planning commission were not there to vote. I don't know what the rules are on that, but I am asking, if at all possible, that we can table this until we're going to find an attorney to help us with the situation. And we didn't get notification until Friday afternoon. So we didn't have a whole lot of time to scramble to get everybody notified of JSAA or even get an attorney at this late of notice. So I'm asking that it be tabled to another time. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have an attorney here tonight if there's any questions that might be able to answer some more technical questions, but we'll get to that. Next is Terry Coscarelli.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm Terry Coscarelli, and my husband is Dr. William Coscarelli. We reside at 220 Fountain Avenue, where we bought our home in 2003, moved in 2005. We share a property line with Nathan Meyer. He's just not Mr. Meyer to me, so if you don't mind, I'm just going to call him Nathan. When we decided to move to Paducah, we were Illinois residents. I was a school superintendent there, and my husband was a professor at Southern Illinois University. We loved Paducah. We came to Paducah often. And so we made a decision as we got on in our careers that we wanted to live in Paducah. And in particular, we fell in love with Fountain Avenue. We raised our daughter here. We retired here. We made some of the best friends of our lives here. The home where Nathan resides now was formerly the home of Dorothy and Joe Turner. And the house in question on the corner was Lena Smith's home, and we were very good friends with Lena. As the years went by and we sat on porches and we shared birthdays and they watched our daughter grow up, and we became part of that neighborhood, not just those two homes, but other homes on Fountain and Jefferson. We became committed to the neighborhood. And so that's our interest in this, and that alone. It has nothing to do with property value. It has nothing to do with legal terms. Our last petition that we sent in was taken apart legally. I will just tell you that's how we felt. We assumed by Nathan's sister, who is an attorney. And it was taken apart point by point of our opinions and our feelings, even how we signed our names. And so, we had to take a breath and say, ooh, this is not neighborly. Do we need to get an attorney? Do we need an attorney? So we can take apart the take apart, and it can go back and forth and tit for tat, and how it becomes. And that's how attorneys are trained. Folks, we're not attorneys. We're neighbors. For that house to become short-term rental is heartbreaking to us. We were at Lena's funeral with her family. We were at Dorothy Turner's funeral with her family. These are people we know and love. These are our neighbors. And we believe it's a slippery slope when you take that beautiful little home on the corner and you turn it into a rental house. And when we first started talking to people about this, everyone thought, oh, it'll be a cute little B&B on the corner. That'll be cute. This is not about a bed and breakfast. This is about a short-term rental. And I have the definitions here if anybody wants to see what that can be and what that can become. And we're awfully afraid of that slippery slope that this is going down for the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Troy Ashton. Mr. Ashton.
I'm Troy Aston, and I'm a resident at 203 Fountain Avenue, just across the street from 200 Fountain Avenue. I sent a quick slide deck earlier today to Josh Summers to forward over to you. It was just a boil down of my thoughts regarding 200 Fountain. I don't know if you received it or didn't receive it, but I'll sum it up. Most of it was content that you, as city leaders, had helped put together, like the city comprehensive plan. And there was a particular slide deck that was an amalgamation of different words, and this is where I have to get my notes out because I'm a fella that relies on notes and not strictly memory. But what it is all it is an amalgamation of words like safe, vibrant, friendly, affordable, thriving, beautiful, clean, diverse, active, and the list goes on. Well, that's what we want the city to be, and I'm in 100% agreement with this work. I believe 200 Fountain and R1 checks all the boxes to be all of those things. One of the first things that I want to say is I took a look at the city website, and this has to do with the fiscal year 2025 budget. Well, the first line on there has to talk about this includes funding for city commissioner priorities, including $1 million for housing initiatives. I'm 100% in alignment with that, too. I think that's money well spent, and I like that my tax dollars are going in that direction. Because what I've heard a lot of is a lack of affordable housing in the area. This will bring me to my next point. Next point has to do with, if you do a quick search on short-term rentals, and I have nothing against short-term rentals, but if you do a quick search of its effects on the communities, what you'll see is it drives up the cost of housing, and that contributes to the problem of affordable housing. So, you know, in my mind, keeping it as an R1 as it is right now and not changing it to a neighborhood service zone is a no-brainer. And then what I will say is
Just a few seconds left, sir.
thank you. My service on the Board of Adjustments, I have come to learn that oftentimes when you're out of non-conforming, allotments are made for conformity. As a matter of fact, just recently, 129 Fountain, just kitty corner, we made sizing allotments so that it could be in an R1 and have a home built there to lessen the housing problem. Thanks for the extra time. Sorry for going over.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Jack Burry?
Thank you. Evening, Commissioners. My name is Jack Burry. I live at 319 Fountain Avenue. And I'm going to back up a little bit, sort of like what Terry did. We were brought to Paducah when I was in the Coast Guard in, I guess we transferred here in 1987, and we stayed until 92. And we lived in the property, I guess you could say, behind Nathan's home across the alley at whatever the address is. Anyway, very nice two-story brick home, and we liked the neighborhood quite a bit. We moved away and were gone for 6 years and had an opportunity to come back and work for a local company, which we did. And not without considerable discernment, I guess you could say, since I had 2 kids in high school. Anyway, we finished raising those 2 children and a third here. And when we decided to move back in '98, we chose that area because we liked it a lot. We liked the older homes. We liked the folks that were there. There was a bit more crime at that time. Nonetheless, that was our neighborhood. We liked our neighbors, and we lived there. And like Terry and Bill, we were friends with Nathan's Lena Smith and the Turners. As a matter of fact, that little community is pretty close-knit. And if you look at the sign entrance, it says Fountain Avenue Neighborhood. And that's what we wanted, a neighborhood where we can see one another regularly on a regular basis. And during the Planning Commission meeting, the first one, most of those individuals there agreed with that, and that transients coming and going doesn't foster a neighborhood. And we're opposed, I'm opposed, also a member of the Jefferson Street Association, but I'm really here kind of as a concerned neighbor, and we would like to see that home remain R1. And if, anyway, that's about all I have to say right now. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Bill Coscarelli?
Hi, I'm Bill. I live at 220 Fountain Avenue. I'm in the neighborhood, and I'm associated, my start button, with the Jefferson Group. I want to talk about some structure to all of this. This petition was brought forward, and the commission group, the zoning group, voted to deny it. And in the course of that discussion, Gail Kaler said, when she was asked, well, do we make the decision? Somebody said, do we make this decision? She said, no, that's the city commission's job. They make the decision, we make the recommendation. So we have out of 4-2 2 votes to deny, and then all of a sudden, a mail letter came and said, oh, there needs to be another meeting. We find that there has to be finding of fact. Here's the meeting scheduled. It's like, wait a minute here, where did this come from? How come nobody talked about findings of fact at the last meeting? So we came to the meeting and the attorney was there and he said, well, you can't just vote no, you have to have findings of fact. And we all went, findings of fact? And people were like, I don't know, what's that? Well, finally the attorney said, well, here's some examples of the findings of fact. And so in the course of that period of findings of fact, people were going, and this would be on the video if you watched it, if I vote no, does that mean yes? No, if you vote yes, it means no, he can't do that. I mean, it was just confusion on the process of all this. We responded at that meeting with a document that I believe you received dealing with 2 things that were findings of fact that were specified by the attorney. The attorney did not say legal issues. The attorney did not say procedural issues. The attorney said findings of fact. For example, residential areas should not be zoned so they are non-conforming. That's a finding of fact, according to the attorney. And when I had the city send me, a copy of the zoning, I'll pass it sort of that way and that way, you can see in your own packet, I believe you have this, that turning that house, Lena's house, into a neighborhood service zone breaks the whole string of houses along the way. The other thing that it does is it opens the door for businesses to come in, barbershops, whatever. The second finding of fact that we started with is, which Troy alluded to, Paducah's strategic goal, investment in the improvement of our housing stock to help grow our community. Well, you take a house that sold for about $100,000 off that's less per square foot than we were doing when we built the Fountain Avenue project. And so that's a really affordable piece of property, I guarantee you. Think about somebody who graduates from a medical program and moves down here in nursing. They'll be there in a second. So I got no seconds left. There are additional responses to all of that. We responded to the findings that we were told to, and we had no idea why nobody talked about the findings in the first meeting. It almost felt like a blindside. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coscarelli. Okay, Darrell Duncan.
Good evening. My name is Darrell Duncan. I live at 2007 Jefferson Street. I'm with the Jefferson Street Association. I'm the president. One of the things that concerned us was finding out about the organization on Friday, which was late Friday, so by the time we got to reading it, or I did, wasn't much time to do anything, so we tried to contact some attorneys around, and nobody could be here. So the first concern we had was that we just delayed it to the next meeting to give us a chance to look at, and as I heard just now, a lot of people have done a lot of work on this, and it did kind of seem like the Planning Commission maybe, why did they take the vote on something that was this emotional? And not all the members were even there when they did the meeting. So we were just concerned if we could not get this tabled until the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
No, we're not voting on this.
First reading.
Yeah, well, we've got one more, Nathan Myers.
Hello, my name's Nathan Myers. I live at 212 Fountain Avenue, and I own the property that so many people have showed up to support on 200 Fountain Avenue. As I understand it, the Commission's seen all the evidence from the previous meetings, everything that's been submitted there, so won't reiterate or rehash all that. I just wanted to come here to say, I appreciate everyone's, passion and investment in the community. I totally understand why people are, very invested in keeping the status quo, protecting the neighborhood. But I just wanted to come and say, that's my goal and interest as well. The goal for this rezone and conditional use was not to, sow discord or try to ruin the neighborhood or something. I just see it as a way to promote tourism in the city, to allow people to experience the great neighborhood we're in. And as I mentioned in there, I will reiterate this part. I live next door, so, if there's anything that happens, I'm going to be right there on it. I want to protect the neighborhood. I want to keep things nice and as good as it can be, I guess. But anyway, I know you guys have the evidence. The last thing I want to say is there has been a lot of confusion. I totally understand why people might want to table this. I will say, we started this back in March, initially submitting this. So here we are 6 months down the road, still talking about what I would have thought was a pretty straightforward process. And I do feel sorry for folks if they feel like their voices weren't heard or they didn't have a chance to respond, but the processes were followed. And as I understand it, a vote's not being taken tonight. This is just an introduction of the ordinance or motion as I understand it. So I would request that we continue with at least introducing, and then in the meantime, at the next meeting, if something comes up, if people want to look into things and introduce it there, that's fine. But I'd request we, move forward with what's planned, and before the vote next month, we can, look into those things. But just to close out, I'm invested in the community. I like living there. I want to see it maintained. I want to keep the property up. I've already put a lot of time, a lot of my own money and resources into trying to fix things up. The house I live in, 212 Fountain Avenue, in addition to 200 Fountain Avenue. So, my goal here is to make things better, not to make things worse. So, but I appreciate your time and taking this case up, and thanks again.
Thank you, Nathan. So we're gonna work through the regular agenda, but we will get to this item and talk about it further. So the next item is the consent agenda, and the consent agenda are items on the consent agenda are considered to be a routine by the Board of Commissioners and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. The city clerk will read the items recommended for approval unless any commissioner would like an item pulled for separate discussion. City clerk?
Approve minutes for the August 27, 2024 Board of Commissioners meeting. Receive and file documents, personnel actions, a municipal order accepting the bid for sale to the city of one crew cab dump truck in the total amount of $96,149 for use by the Public Works Department, Street Division, and authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for same. A municipal order accepting the bid for sale to the city of one 3/4-ton pickup truck in the total amount of $46,989 for use by the Parks Department, and authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for same. A municipal order approving a reimbursement agreement with Paxton Park Golf Board, DBA Paxton Park Municipal Golf Course, for the purchase of a greens mower in the amount of $50,000.
So moved.
Second.
Call roll.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson? Aye. Mayor Bray?
Aye. Okay, I'll ask the city clerk, please read the first municipal order that we have before us tonight.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners adopt a municipal order entitled, "A Municipal Order Authorizing the Mayor to Execute All Documents Necessary to Receive Grant Funds through the National Park Service Paul Bruin Historic Revitalization Grant Program in the amount of $750,000 for subgrants for the rehabilitation of historic properties in the Central Business District, Market House District, and South Side Community.
So moved.
Second.
Hi, Hope.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, and City Clerk. So wonderful news. I get up here and share tonight. So as she said, this is a National Park Service Paul Bruin grant. It is a 3-year grant for $750,000. And of that, $650,000 will go directly toward local buildings within those 3 areas that she mentioned in the municipal order. It's the Paducah Downtown Commercial District, the Market House District, and the Southside Community for buildings that are on the National Register of Historic Places or are eligible. If they're eligible, they would need to be on the National Register by the end of the grant period. We are responsible for, after, if the grant is approved, of putting an application process in place that will, the local buildings will be able to apply for this funding. So we will have applications, and that will all go out at the same time. That is something that we will be working on as part of this grant. The owners of the buildings will be able to ask for up to $100,000. Of the $650,000, our goal is to do at least 7 buildings. We took an extra $100,000 of the budget to contract, if needed, for an outside organization to help support those grantees in the environmental process. So we have $650,000 for the buildings themselves, and then $100,000 to help provide support for those, because, you know, we assume that some of these individuals may have never been through that environmental process. So we'll be able to help provide them some extra support for that. But yeah, that's, you know, hopefully going to bring, I mean, the goal of this grant is really to spur economic development, to use it as leverage to bring in additional developers and fundings for some of these buildings downtown. So I think it's a fantastic opportunity and definitely a community benefit for Paducah, and yeah.
Well, it supports the commission priorities, you know, on preserving our historical assets. So now the way I understand it, we get $750. Is that $250 a year? Is that the way it's going to come? Do we know?
Well, no, it won't come like that. It's a reimbursement grant, so we will
Okay.
be drawing down funds as we spend them.
I got you. Okay.
And once we go through that application process and approve those projects, that will go to the National Park Service. They will also be reviewing those applications and proposed projects for their approval as well. So there are several steps we will have to go through before they
Okay.
can actually start working on their buildings, but that's all built into the grant timeline.
Okay, so we approve, but then they have to approve as well.
Yes.
Okay. And we can determine the level of grants that we want to give out, is that right? I
That's
mean,
correct.
With a cap of 100,000.
with a cap
At
of
the
100.
cap of 100.
But if we wanted to do 10 $65,000 grants, we could do that, or some facsimile thereof.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. There are guidelines, but there's also some leeway in that, in how we structure the grant application process. So that's something that we'll be working on.
Well, it's, I mean, the way I understand it, it's a very competitive grant, so, you know, I'm glad we've got it, and I'm looking forward to the process, so I think it's great.
It's exciting.
Congratulations. Really,
Thank
you
you.
for doing it for us. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. It's exciting.
Any other comments? We all good? Okay, I'll ask the city clerk to call roll.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hope. Okay, the next item is reimbursement of an IDA activity going out at the Triple Rail site. I'll let the city clerk please read it, and then we'll discuss it.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners adopt a municipal order entitled, "A Municipal Order Approving Reimbursement to the Paducah McCracken County Industrial Development Authority in an amount not to exceed $958,404 and authorizing the mayor to execute any documents related to same."
So moved.
Second.
I'll let you start out, I'll fill in.
Mayor and Commission, as you're aware, one of the largest areas for development that we have in our county is this Tripperell site. It's been on, several companies' radars for a number of years. We've really not hit at it yet, but one of the things that the IDA discussed was to be able to clear and grub that property so we could show better, and that was some of the feedback that from site selectors and things that we're looking at that would help market that property. So the IDA and the county has also taken action on this. The IDA had $850,000 from a recent sale of property that they put towards the cost of this clearing and grubbing. The remainder of the balance of that is being split, if you approve tonight, 75% by the county and 25% from the city. And the reason that we have a not to exceed, because we did have some contingencies built in that in case there was some unforeseen that occurred. But if they didn't, then we would not be having to fund the full amount. And so that's what, Mayor.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. One of the things that the city does, city and county both, we work very hard together on economic development. I sit on the GPED board, and we meet monthly trying to attract businesses to Paducah, McCracken County. And one of the things that we've discovered, is that we've had a couple of situations where a company came here, looked at our land, liked it, liked the location. If you've ever been out to our Tripperell site, it's where 3 railroads come together, and it's also located on the Ohio River. So the location out there makes it very ideal. However, it's not even close to shovel-ready. And so a lot of these other communities have forged ahead and gotten property that, and cleared and grubbed it so that it is ready when a business comes in. And so, after a lot of discussion, we decided that this was an investment we needed to make on this property. So it's a great piece of property. We're clearing and grubbing, I think, 250 acres, and it's very important to the community going forward. It's a great spot. We're eventually going to hit. It's ideal for manufacturing, not small projects, not 50-person companies. It's really ideal for a larger manufacturing site. So we're talking about 300, 500, 700 jobs. And so this is what we believe is required to make this land ready to go. So I've been involved in it, and the property is in the county. It's not in the city. Hence the 75-25 split. But we are definitely partnering with the county on this. Questions?
I just comment,
Sure.
You made a good comment about this isn't in the city. It's quite a few miles from the city. It's really an example of how the city steps up to try to do what's good for the community. And so the way this is arranged, I don't think we'll ever get any payroll tax off of it. So it's not like we're going to be getting money back on it, but it is good for Western Kentucky. And I just think people need to recognize what the city does to support Western Kentucky and jobs and that sort of thing. So,
maybe I could give you a little bit more background. We did there was a big project a couple of years ago out there, and there was a discussion about what the benefit to the county and the city were because it's so far out in the county. So we did what's called an in-plan study. And that's a very detailed analysis, making lots of assumptions on number of jobs, where people would live, where they would eat, where they would spend money. And what we ended up coming up with was about a 75-25 split when you look at the benefits to the county versus the city. So there was, it wasn't, we just put our finger up, and assumed that this was a split. There was some math to the way that we came up with the numbers, so. But you're right, Commissioner Smith. I mean, we're going to benefit, everybody's going to benefit, and we're going to step up on these
Yeah,
projects.
I just
so.
saying that for the record.
Right.
And also, the state has put money for projects to be out in that area too, for road development and as part of their plan.
Well, the state has, we've gotten $3.5 million for a grant out there on a riverport West. We have a riverport right down here on the river. But the state has invested in that riverport out there, and as the city manager said, on construction roads and roads. So, there's a lot of people that are investing in that property, and we're going to hit a project. So, okay, I'll ask the city clerk. Did I miss anybody? I'll ask the city clerk to please call roll.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. Okay, I'll ask the city clerk to please read the next item.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners adopt a municipal order entitled, "A Municipal Order Approving an Employment Agreement Between the City of Paducah and Carol Galt for Employment as Planning Director and authorizing the mayor to execute same."
So moved.
Second.
So, Mayor and Commission, a couple months ago, we reached out and asked Ms. Galt to come on an interim basis to take on some leadership roles within the city in one of the most busiest departments. A lot of the commission priorities are in there. And, to no one's surprise, Carol's stepped up to meet that challenge, so much so that we didn't want to wait to 6 months. To bring forward, and we have come to an agreement, and we bring this forward for you tonight to take the interim tag off of Ms. Galt and name her as the next Director of Planning for the city.
Comments?
I think it's a great idea.
So I'm tickled to death. I mean, from a planning perspective, one of the things that I've experienced as mayor since I got elected was that it seems like the majority of our initiatives, I mean, we have folks here tonight, talking about, zoning ordinance, but it's just so many of our initiatives go through the planning department. And strong leadership is really critical to our future. And as I've told Ms. Galt, this is really just the first step. We want to continue to invest in the people in that department so that we can continue to grow. So development, neighborhood development, economic development with developers, all of that goes through our planning department. So it's critical that we have the right people and the right staff on board. And so I'm tickled to death to welcome Ms. Galt tonight. Call roll.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. Okay, we read this first reading of this ordinance 2 weeks ago. It's our proposed tax rates for FY 2025, and I'll ask the city clerk to please read them.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners adopt an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance Fixing the Levies and Rates of Taxation on All Property in the City of Paducah, Kentucky, Subject to Taxation for Municipal Purposes and for School Purposes for the period from July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025, with the purposes of said taxes hereunder defined. Purpose, general fund of the city, real property, rate per 100.264. Personal property except inventory, rates per 100.356. Motor vehicle and watercraft, rates per 100.390. for school purposes, Paducah Junior College, real estate, .014, personal property, except inventory, .013, motor vehicles and watercraft, .031, total tax rate per $100, real property, .278, total tax rate per 100, personal property, .369, total rate per 100, inventory, .000, total tax rate per 100, motor vehicle and watercraft, .421. Property taxes levied herein shall be due and payable in the following manner. In the case of tax bills which reflect an amount due of less than $2,000, the payment shall be due on November 1, 2024, and shall be payable without penalty and interest until November 30, 2024. In the case of all other tax bills, payment shall be in accordance with the following provisions. The first half payment shall be due on November 1, 2024, and shall be payable without penalty and interest until November 30, 2024. The second half payment shall be due on February 1, 2025, and shall be payable without penalty and interest until February 28, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? No discussion? Call roll.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. Okay, I'll, please read the next ordinance.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance authorizing the City of Paducah to collect taxes for the Paducah Independent School District for the period from July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025. This ordinance is summarized as follows. The Board of Education of the City of Paducah, Kentucky, pursuant to the authority vested in it under its charter and under the laws of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, has adopted a resolution and budget levying an ad valorem tax on all real property in said Paducah city subject to taxation for school purposes. Pursuant to said resolution, the Board of Education budgets and levies the following taxes for the period of July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025, an ad valorem tax of 87 4/10 on each $100 assessed valuation of all real property subject to taxation for school purposes in the city of Paducah, Kentucky, and an ad valorem tax of 87 4/10 on each $100 assessed valuation of all personal property subject to taxation for school purposes in the city of Paducah, Kentucky, for the support and maintenance of the public schools of said city shall be collected by the city for the Board of Education. Purpose, Paducah Independent School District, real estate, .874 rates per 100, personal property including inventory, .874 rate per 100. Taxes authorized to be collected shall be due and payable as set forth in the ordinance for setting tax levies for the city of Paducah for FY 2025 as adopted.
So moved.
Second.
So just to be clear, this is taxes that we collect on behalf of the independent school system. And, you know, they are on people's tax bills. I think I just have to say this every year because people get their tax bills and they look at their taxes and they see this number and sometimes they equate that number with city taxes. And there is a significant portion of the tax bill that is for the independent school system, and that's what, you know, that's what these rates are for. So just a bit of a reminder.
Right, and it is, as part of that reminder, Mayor, it is this Board of Education that sets those rates, and it's not this body, even though we have to adopt it for collecting purposes. The Board of Education has already had their meetings and adopted those rates.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, please call roll.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. Okay, we have two ordinances to introduce tonight. The first one is a utility easement And I'll ask the city clerk to please read it.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners introduce an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance Authorizing the Mayor to Accept an Easement Between the City of Paducah and TC3 LLC, owner of property located at 723 Cruz Avenue." This ordinance is summarized as follows. This ordinance authorizes the City of Paducah to accept a permanent utility easement between TC3 LLC and the City of Paducah for and in consideration of $1 for an area located on the west side of Cruz Avenue and south of Marianne Drive.
So moved.
Second.
Melanie? Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager. So, let me see. I've got the plat pulled up here that we closed we closed an alley portion across this property, and then afterwards, we became aware that there was some storm water infrastructure under there. So the property owner has been very kind and has let us put just an easement across there in case we were to ever need to go in and do any kind of work.
Okay.
So it's just it was an oversight on the plat, and we are now just correcting that. So they're giving us the easement, cost us $1, and this is just to clean up the plat.
Well, that's very nice of that property owner.
It was very nice of
Very,
that property
you know,
owner.
so
Yeah.
we need to
So,
send him
you could've gotten it
him or
for
her a
50
Christmas
cents,
card.
I'm sorry?
I think you could have gotten it for 50 cents, though.
Yeah, I've always been a pushover, so we could just only get $1. Only get $1.
That was a good one. That was a good one. I was trying to say what a nice guy he was, and you were trying
Just
to
kidding.
squeeze him down.
That's right. But that's what we're doing here.
Okay.
And Mayor and Commission, if for any chance that we would have to go in and do work, then we would also have to put the property back into the condition as we found it. And so the property owner is not out from that as well, so.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you.
Okay, and the second ordinance that we are introducing, with the emphasis on introducing tonight, is the rezoning of 200 Fountain Avenue, and I'll ask the city clerks, please read it.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners introduce an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance of the City of Paducah, Kentucky amending the Paducah zoning map." This ordinance is summarized as follows. This ordinance amends the Paducah zoning map, which is incorporated into the city code via section 126-31B, to reflect that the property located at 200 Fountain Avenue was rezoned by operation of law from R1 Low Density Residential Zone to NSZ Neighborhood Services Zone.
So moved.
Second.
Josh?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, Madam City Clerk. So I want to keep my remarks tonight short and high level because you all have been made very well aware of this case and been immersed in the record. So on May 6th of this year, we received a petition to rezone 200 Fountain Avenue from R1 Low Density Residential Zone to NSC, which is Neighborhood Services Zone. And that is the zoning that encompasses the majority of the Fountain Avenue Historic District. The Planning Commission also considered a short-term rental as part of that rezoning request, which is allowed by KRS 100.2025. At that meeting, the recommendation that was voted on was to adopt a resolution approving the neighborhood services zone, and that did fail on a vote of 4-2. Since it was voted down in denial, we needed to make findings of fact and also make a definitive recommendation to this body, which was not done at that meeting. So at the next meeting on June 6th, we put that agenda item back on the agenda for the specific reason of forwarding this body a definitive recommendation of approval or denial, and also the findings of fact. At that meeting, it was approved, and you will find a resolution signed by Chairman Wade in your packets for the zone change in the affirmative to NSZ. Afterwards, we had received a request from a neighboring property owner for the Board of Commissioners to hear and decide the zone change, which is at the point where we're at tonight. So anything above and beyond tonight is more of a legal standpoint and legal findings. And so Ms. Blankenship is here to guide you all through those questions if you have any. But I would be glad to answer any questions you all may have about the history or timeline or the 30,000-foot overview.
Well, I think I might have a question.
Yes.
We've been given a lot of information about this. We've even watched the video, and we've seen all that went on in that video. And so we have residents here tonight who have expressed their sentiments and their concerns and sentiments that I had even after beginning to look at all of this. They've asked that we table this, giving hopefully us more time, perhaps to talk about this some more and to make sure that we're moving in the right direction. And even though it is an ordinance introduction tonight, what are the legal ways in which we can actually table this, giving us more time to discuss?
Thank you, Commissioner. Being a legal question, I'll defer to Ms. Blankenship.
I wasn't talking to you anyway, no.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners, City Manager. So your question, Reverend Henderson, you always can table an ordinance anytime one comes before you all. If you decide to do so, you would have to vote to do so, but you certainly can, and someone can implement a motion, make a motion to do that and vote on that if that's what you decide to do.
Okay.
So if that answers your question on that.
It does, so
Okay.
I guess my question would it be in order for?
Well, I think we need to,
Okay.
If you don't mind, and Stacy can fill in legal, I think there is confusion about what we're talking about here tonight. So just recall that the Planning Commission made their recommendation. This body, there's several things that this body could have done.
Mm-hmm.
This body could have had its own hearing, had its own findings of fact, come to its own conclusion of law. You didn't choose to do that. This body could have looked at the record and then had its own decision based on that record, or this body could have let it sit for 90 days, and at the end of 90 days, their decision by the Planning Commission became a matter of law.
Right.
So you would not be able to table their decision.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing you would be talking about tabling tonight is amending the zoning map. And so their decision became a matter of law at the expiration of 90 days. And so what you have before you tonight as an introduction is just to amend the zoning map to reflect that matter of law that came into place 90 days post the decision and the appeal to this body.
Right.
So.
I think I understood
Right.
that, but.
But it doesn't, so it doesn't go back and revert the Planning Commission's decision.
Okay.
Yeah, you would not be able to do that.
I think what we ought to do is maybe, Stacy, you could explain where we are in the process as Darren described the 90 days, and so there's 30 days for appeal.
Right, so following this, the finality of the decision by the Planning Commission, there's a 30-day appeal process. That decision by the Planning Commission, as I understand it, was final on September 12th, because that was the 90 days after the decision was made. So technically, that decision is final, and the only ordinance you all have ahead in front of you today is just to amend the zoning map to reflect what that final decision is. Okay? So, you can table it, and, I was just answering your question. You certainly can table it, but it doesn't change any of the process here. All it does is just delay the decision to change the map officially. It's been changed already. It's just making sure that the public knows, because you want your maps to reflect what the decisions are.
I guess the only thing that I really want, to go on record is that we've had several residents to come before us about zoning issues. And I feel like every time they've come, we have just kind of pushed them off, okay? And we just kind of gone along. And I think, obviously, when we did this, I was all for it. But again, hearing the residents come and express the same concerns that I brought up initially to our attorney, and I guess you eventually called me, I'm hearing it now, and I'm like, well, yeah, come on, folks, we need to try. I'm concerned that the residents keep leaving us, keep leaving the meetings, feeling as if we have let them down. Does that make any sense? Yes. I mean,
Stacy, can you explain, though, typically, these issues don't come to the city commission. They are decided by the planning commission, and they don't come to our level. So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and they don't come to our
Typically,
level.
they have never,
Yeah.
they've
Right.
always been decided by the planning commission, which is by the law, the way I understand it's supposed to be done.
Well, so the planning commission makes a recommendation to the city commission, but the city commission typically, because by operation of law, if you don't, you have to have everyone here, and you have to vote by majority vote to overturn the planning commission, if that's what you choose to do. But what typically happens is nothing happens, because when you don't do that decision to overturn the decision of the planning commission, then it automatically becomes law. So that's how you typically handle it, because that's in I assume, your minds, that's why you appoint the planning commission and the commissioners, is to have these hearings, determine what's best for the city, and then you trust their decisions are accurate, absent something otherwise. And so that's how it's normally been handled.
Well, I think we all saw the video. And we saw, at least I saw, what y'all sent me. Maybe it's different on yours. I saw the confusion going on in that meeting. Folk didn't know what they were voting on or anything of that nature. Then we come back, or they came back a few days later or a few weeks later, and now they've got some folk at this meeting that weren't present at the last meeting, and now they vote to approve. And I just try to be a straight shooter. To me, it causes me to have a raised eyebrow.
Why was there so much confusion?
Well, you saw the bit, because people didn't know what they were voting on.
I know, and I don't understand that, because they are appointed, and they receive a lot of training. So it's just
State law.
Well, but it's not
it's telling
something
to me why that they were so confused.
Well,
It was on the houses. So they got confused on the Airbnb
I understand,
and the houses.
and that was the confusion.
And the one commissioner who voted no and came back and voted yes, I did call him, and he said that was all. He said, I did not, the way they presented that. And,
So then that's on us. If we didn't present it, or the Board of Adjustments or whomever, if they didn't present it correctly, even for the board members to vote correctly, is that not?
Well, maybe, I may be oversimplifying. So we can introduce an ordinance to overturn.
So right now, as we sit here, that residence is in NSZ, as we sit here. All you all are doing is changing the map to reflect
understand.
that. The
Right.
only way you can change it would be, it would have to go back through the process again to get that rezoned back to R1, if that's what.
Back through the planning commission.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, who instigates that process?
And- Well, it would be the exact same the process that has gone before. You can, it can be implemented that several ways. The statute sets that out, so,
What does the statute say, though?
Well, the statute says it can originate by the property owner, or the city commission can originate it by putting in a request for it to be rezoned.
Do we have to have any more specific, I've heard that phrase mentioned, findings of fact, to do that? Do we have to have new findings of fact?
I don't think
if we
you
were to do that
know,
action?
because you're not going to have a hearing on it. It would just be, you implement that process all over again. They would have to go all through that same exact process again, and findings of fact would have to come out of the planning commission.
Oh, the planning commission, it would go back to them.
It would be
if-
the exact same process to rezone it back to R1 if that's what, is decided to do. But this decision tonight by this commission would not have any effect whatsoever on whether or not
Well, let me say this.
that property is R1 or
Okay, so even
NSC.
if we aren't voting tonight, but if we were voting tonight and we voted in favor, we could still go back to what you're saying to overturn that.
Yes,
let me say
because you're
this.
just changing the map to reflect what it already is.
Let me say this, I'm not sure exactly what the next step should be. I think it's been suggested that we table this tonight, even though the tabling this decision really doesn't affect what's law today. But as a show of good faith, I think we should table it. And I would like to make a motion that we do table it.
So moved. Second. Are you making the motion?
I am.
I'm seconding that.
Call roll.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. So I want to ask one other question, because I know that it became law on September 10th, but or whatever the date was. So there was a third,
So as I understand, so that 90-day expires, so on the 91st day, that's when the next clock starts for the 30-day window for an appeal to be made to circuit court on the planning commission's ruling. And so that day, I believe, was beginning on 9/11, and then the next 30 days counting 9/11 would be the appeal period to file an appeal with circuit court.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
I'm not for sure the date, and I would be uncomfortable saying it because I don't want anybody relying on me
Right.
later and saying we missed the deadline. It is 30 days after the final decision, and I don't know the date exactly, so.
okay, so here's what I'm going to say. I'm just going to say that, then citizens and the commission, citizens have a decision as to whether or not they want to appeal that to circuit court. And I guess as long as they file something within that period of time, then that would start the process. At the same time, we could decide, I guess, whatever the process would be to take this back through and go through this process again. I don't know what that process is. I don't understand it. I don't think it's been explained at this point thoroughly, but I think, having some time to investigate that probably makes a lot of sense.
That's fine with us. We can certainly give you some more information about that process.
And one of the things we can do, is in going back through the process, we can make sure that, that we're careful that we got everybody on the planning commission there, and that we make sure that we go through this process. There's no guaranteed outcome, but we go through this process in an orderly manner and make sure that it's handled without any question about what the process, because I think there are some questions.
Absolutely. I agree.
So,
The public knows about it.
right. Whatever the process is that we follow to make sure that the public knows, we'll make sure that that is part of the process.
I'll just ask one question, if I may, and the attorney may be able to answer this, is, from my understanding, if I'm thinking this correctly, is the 90 days were from June 6th, and it was over September 12th. We were notified the 13th, to where we could appeal. So the appeal is from 30 days from the 12th. We have to October 12th. I just wanted to.
We will get those exact dates for you, but the 90 days begins, or the 30-day window begins on the 91st day. After the 90 day is when that became, the planning commissions became rule of law. I believe that staff received the appeal on June 12th, and so we take that through the 90 days. I believe that takes us to September 10th, and then the 91st day would be September 11th, and so that's the first day of the 30-day window for an appeal to circuit court. But staff will follow up with you tomorrow to give you the exact dates on that. But we are in that 30-day window now. I can say that definitively. Circuit court would be the appeal, the next step for the appeal process. It would be appealing of the Planning Commission's decision.
Okay. That's where we are, so we're going to learn a lot through this process, so,
Okay, thank you.
okay, thank you. Okay, we have an update on commission priorities. This is a process that we go through every year to set our priorities on what the commission asks the staff to focus on for the fiscal year. We're in the middle of our fiscal year, and so I would ask our Assistant City Manager, Michelle Smolin, welcome.
So that can work for now. All right. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, and City Clerk. Mayor teed me up well. We're here to talk about our commission priorities and give a mid-year report that we do every year. So with that, okay. So this is just a graphic of our overview of our process. So we always start with the Board of Commissioners retreat, and from there, we work into the priority adoption. Now we're in implementation in the communication and reporting piece. On the implementation, we work through our budget process.
Go ahead, continue. I'll get it, go ahead.
We work through our budget process and staff assignments so that we can make great progress on the commission priorities. And now we're into communication and reporting, and everything I'll be talking about today is available on our website at paducahky.gov/commission priorities, including the full report. Thank you. So the board adopted 10 commission priorities and 5 continuous improvement items. I grouped the presentation a little bit differently today. So I won't be necessarily hitting every single priority, just the big highlights. So if there are any questions or anything you would like to speak about specifically, just feel free to jump in. And like I said, the full report is available online. Okay, so we'll dive in. What I wanted to start with is these are projects that are really transformative. In my mind, they're transformative capital projects that have been on the commission priorities for a number of years. And so we're pretty far into those. So a great example is the Paducah Sports Park. You know, we have, that's a great partnership with the county, the Sports Tourism Commission, and the city. We had our groundbreaking, the project is underway, and we're looking at a goal of completion in fall of 2025. So that's been on our commission priorities a while, and that project is well underway. We have the 911 radio upgrade. This is a really significant capital improvement project. It's a $10 million project being ran out of our police department and is really critical to public safety needs for the city and the county. The completion for that, we're looking at March of 2026 for the project closeout. So that's a really significant project that has been on our priorities for a number of years. Then I want to touch on the Riverfront Build Grant. So for some highlights for this project is we did secure funding from the state, $3.5 million. The project has been bid out and we're currently reviewing those bids. So that's another item that has been on our commission priorities, and that process is well underway. Anything on those that you'd like to speak on? Okay.
Well, actually, we're in competitive negotiation on the bid that we did receive on that, and so we look to have an update at the next commission meeting for that.
Those are 3 huge projects.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I hate to just skip over them.
That's right.
You know, Paducah Sports Park, you know, with the county, that's a $65 million project. They're moving dirt.
Yep.
And a lot of people are excited about it. 911, certainly not, it hasn't gotten as much press, but it's a $10 million project that really upgrades the 911 system in our community that we've been needing to do, some people say since 2013.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So where we had somewhere around 70% coverage in the county, city county on 911, and we're taking that to 95%. So that's a big thing.
Yeah.
And the Riverfront build grant, man, this is a project that, it's been a labor of love. You know, Senator McConnell actually helped us get the original $10.7 million build grant. We then got $3.5 million from the state of Kentucky. And we're putting in some of our own money. The project came in over budget, and so we're working through a negotiating process to try to bring it down in line so we can get started on it as soon as possible. But that project, that riverfront project, is going to change the face of our riverfront. And it's going to be a huge thing for generations to come because, you know, we are a river town. I mean, and our riverfront is really what defines us. And so we got barbecue on the river starting this week. You know, people don't like walking in gravel. I think we all know that. None of us do. And so, you know, this project is really going to help us once we get it done. It's going to take a little time, like everything, but okay, that's all.
No, that's great. That's exactly what I'm looking for.
I'm not as passionate as you, Pastor, but
Well, I think you're right. It's important because they're very transformative, and they've been commission priorities for a number of years, and so these are pretty successful items we've been working through.
okay.
So now I want to talk about a little bit about some kind of big upcoming projects. These are maybe newer commission priorities, so some of them we're still getting organized. Some have some big milestones coming up. So these are kind of what I wrap my brain around as some big upcoming projects. So we're working through the Greenway Trail extension on the south side. We have a grant with the National Park Service. We have a very engaged steering committee. We've had public meetings. I think later on there's over 500 engagements through surveys and people attending public meetings. So this is a really exciting, of course, that's another really well-loved and used community asset. So figuring out how we can extend it to the south side and loop back towards Noble Park and the existing Greenway Trail is really important. Do you want me to hit through all of these and then you can speak to them?
Sure.
Okay. So with Hotel Metropolitan, this is also a project that is well underway, and we have exciting news with the Mellon Foundation grant for $1.34 million, and then the city support. Of course, this first year we're looking at $250,000, but that will be very significant, for the future of Hotel Metropolitan. We're currently working on a co-stewardship agreement with them, and that will be, we're working through that with them now. So that is again a newer one, but we've been able to make great progress in that area. And community signage is probably the newest one on the commission priorities. This is one we're really getting organized around. It deals with neighborhood signage, highway signage, and entryway signage, which are, when you really dig in, are pretty big projects. So with neighborhood signage, the planning department is working through that. We're talking about entryway signs to all the neighborhoods, and then also exploring some caps. This picture turned out really small, but that's an existing one, I think in Lower Town, where you can kind of see up on top of the street, there's a little arch there. So that was an example of a cap on streets that we're exploring. With highway signage, that's really preliminary. We've done some research on how other communities funded their highway signage. I think there was an example from Bowling Green that came up specific to this. And then with the entryway signage, we've been working with the chair of the Civic Beautification Board, and she's actually put great effort into going around and looking at all of our entry signage, looking at what needs to be done, and we're going to get together with her to see how the city can partner with any upgrades or landscaping that needs to happen around the entryway signage.
They need more than just landscaping. Yeah. And the entrance signs need a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I've sent pictures before. I mean, some of them, like Bowling Green and Warren County, are beautiful, especially a couple of them on the interstate, and they're joint projects. Now, some are with Corvette, or some are with Western Kentucky University, but I just feel like, could we raise some private dollars, or could we go in with the county for at least one or two along the interstate that's Paducah, McCracken County, that are just those are so appealing and eye-catching and stunning, quite frankly.
I agree.
I really would like to see that. The entrance sign is more of an overhaul than just, maybe we just need to do some little work right now, but, they look bad. in most of the areas. They've grown up over where it says welcome and all of that. So I'd just like to see those maybe kept, but while we're doing a full study on how we could overhaul that. And I know at one point I told you I was going to do that. But look, call Bowling Green, see how much theirs cost.
Well, we've done
You all
that.
did.
Yeah, it's multi-millions,
I
you
know it is.
know,
I
and
know
so.
when we were there, they'd raised a lot of money to do it. And I understand that, but is there something we could do just,
So that in itself is not, this is the way I perceive it. That in itself, that project, I totally agree with you. I mean, it's something that we need to do, the community needs to do. It's really not been singled out as a commission priority specifically. I mean, within signage, it's a discussion point. I think what we're working on right now is sort of like neighborhood signage to define the neighborhoods. But your
not
point,
entrance to the
that's-
city?
right, but your point's well taken. You know, and I think it's something that we need to focus on in the future. We just need to figure out a way to do it because we're gonna have to allocate some pretty significant dollars to do that. And we may have to raise some private dollars as well. You know, so we need a plan on that, a strategy, an approach. There's been some discussion that's gone on in the community about it, but nothing's really kind of come together. So,
Well said.
okay.
Okay.
Keep going.
All right, so then I want to talk about a couple of focus areas, talk about South Side first and then downtown. So, with South Side, I thought it was worth talking a little bit about our incentives. Of course, one of the commission priorities is for those to be under review, and those currently are, to make sure that we're achieving the outcomes we really want related to housing and economic development. But I did want to give you an update that we've had $52,000 in residential grants that have leveraged $256,000 in private investment. And that house is a good example. That's the first new build. That's a Paducah Alliance of Neighbors house and on Oscar Cross. So we have a new construction that has utilized the incentives and then, some other households that have. We've also used $73,000 in commercial and business grants that have leveraged $480,000 of private investment. And that picture on the bottom left is a business that took advantage of beautification and the roof grant. So we do have businesses and houses using the grants, but we are still, or the incentives, I should say, but we are still reviewing those to see if that is the impact we truly want to have. Sure.
What is that business? Where is it?
Oh, hang on.
You
I
may
have-
not have that at your fingertips.
I
Is
do,
it
just-
Mexican or?
Yes.
And it's across from Bob's Drive-In on
Yes.
Oh, it's across from Bob's Drive-In?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Great, good, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Not much big edge at first.
Across the street from it.
Right.
Oh, you know what? I don't have the name of it. And it looks like Maria. I just have the information on the
Yeah.
beautification and the roof grant, but not the name of the business. But I will show you this, I'll pass this around. This does have a picture of the before that I think is worth taking a look at.
So directionally, I think we're headed in the right direction, but I don't think we
Correct.
are there,
Correct.
with our grants, the way that we are providing grants to people. I don't know what the answer is, but we just haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
And we've got $1 million put in the budget.
Yep.
And we want to spend that money
Correct.
to, to upgrade our neighborhoods. And so I think the challenge to planning, and whoever, as a group, our staff, is to figure out how we can spend that money, and make something happen.
That's right.
And so we've been, in fairness to everybody, we've been talking about this
That's right.
for well over a year.
That's right.
And I think, I know Carol, Ms. Galt just started, in a role, but,
Yeah.
but we want to spend that money.
Yes. Understood, and we have the history with Fountain Avenue and Lower Town, so that's what we've been talking about, is putting together a neighborhood plan. Of course, that would be specific to the other neighborhoods, because what worked over there may not necessarily work in all areas of town, but that's the approach we're taking, is working with, an expert in that area to revamp our incentives and look at how we can make the most impact with that money.
What worked in Fountain Avenue, I'm convinced will not work in the south side. I mean, I just think it's different neighborhoods. It's required more investment. It's different. And so, all right.
The other thing I wanted to highlight, just a couple of amenities. So there's a boulevard, Walter Jeton is up there, and we are working with Paducah Power to put in new streetlights and decoration, so that will be a really nice enhancement to that area. Another newer commission priority is the community gardens in the south side. So Commissioner Henderson did a ride-along with some of our staff and identified some properties. They're currently looking at those properties and determining how to, what specific needs each of those sites has so that we can move forward. But that's also a new one that's taken us some time to organize and get going. So I don't know if there was anything you wanted to add since you were on those ride-alongs.
I think it's time to get it going. What the mayor said. No, I'm good. Thank you.
Don't quote
I think we agree. Yeah.
Huh?
I think we agree.
All right.
You didn't have much time, Carol, to kind of like glow in the spotlight back there.
It's okay, but we're gonna spend that $1 million. It'll be well spent.
Thank you. Thank you.
So another focus area is downtown. And, one thing I really wanted to make sure we talked about is I want to focus on amenities. I thought downtown looked great this spring. We had Public Works and Parks put a lot of effort in. We got the pansies. The planters looked really nice. And we're working on the next iteration of that, which is we have new benches and trash cans to put out that will look great. So we're trying to get through barbecue on the river and then focus on putting the new trash cans out is our first goal, and then the benches. So that will be a really nice upgrade to downtown. Of course, our new planning director has great experiences in downtown and Main Street, so she has her and our downtown development specialists have some great things planned for fall. They have a promotional campaign where every step tells a story. They're going to highlight businesses downtown. We have some nice fall decor coming to really drive people downtown and have it be a nice experience. I also wanted to mention that bring up the TIF, even with the dissolution of or dissolving the Wayland Partnership, our TIF is on track. We've had $18 million in investment, and so that next target is, I think, spring of 2025, where we need to have $20 million to activate the state portion, so we are on target with that.
Yeah, very good. So, talking about downtown, you can't talk about downtown without mentioning the city block project that did not come to fruition, and so we've got to determine what the next steps are. We want to go through a process with that. I think we need to listen carefully to what folks think, about that, but also see, exactly what we could do to activate, that piece of property down there. And I think one of the things that we talked about publicly, we haven't talked about it a lot, but that piece of property that's closest to Broadway, that has been undeveloped, unimproved, I guess is the right way. We need to get going on that.
It's in the works. Engineering has already been looking at that and putting some cost estimates and looking at the
Very
grade
good.
level and how that will all flow into to tie into that. And so, they've been working on that for the last several weeks.
Okay, great.
You're talking about the potential of making that parking or,
The Broadway side
Yeah.
of that lot that didn't get redone, that where at one point was going to be a phase 2 of redoing that into a parking lot to bring it up. It's in very
Yeah,
bad
understood.
disrepair.
Great, good.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
So I want to talk a little bit about development in the city, and this hits really on several priorities. First of all, that on the left-hand side there is the underground storage tank that was removed from the Catterjohn site. So, of course, we demolished those buildings. We're going through some environmental and preparing it for some environmental analysis, preparing it for redevelopment. We've also been working on, what is the process, whether it's an RFP or an RFI, to look at what developers are interested in for that property and what they would propose, focusing on housing is what we've been talking about. And then on the right-hand side over there, that is that incremental development workshop that was this spring. I think several of you attended. We had 64 participants, and that's really was focused on helping grow local developers. And I heard great feedback from that.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to highlight that because that seems like a long time ago, but that was this year as part of this commission priorities. Go ahead.
Actually, we had a couple of developers that attended that. I mean,
Yeah.
young, small business people that became developers, so
Yeah.
that was successful in that regard. Now, I ask a question, what is the timetable for getting the environmental work finished on that Catterjohn lot so we can get that turned around?
So we've done initial environmental assessment. I think there was about 30 sites. They're having to come back and do a few more based on the feedback that we got from initial. A couple of the samplings were outside of norms. And so while we don't think we'll have to do a wholesale rehab or environmental capping and things like that, there are some that are outside of the federal and state norms that additional sampling will give us that. They are scheduled right now to come back and do the additional sampling. Don't hold me to this date, but I believe the 27th of this month.
And then after they get that in,
Then we'll know what, we'll be
before we
able
get this
to,
up?
yeah. And so once we get that information, we'll be able to know when we put out an RFI or an RFP that we have that information. This is what we know would have to, to occur from, deal with.
Okay, thank you.
While we're talking about that, when we put out that RFI, RFP, when we finally get there, we want to make sure that we make that as broad as we possibly can, to get interested developers, that would, we just need to see different creative opportunities, the way we could use that land.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to focus on a little bit was the permitting goal. So we have had some significant effort put in meeting with contractors, architects, engineers, and other communities to gather feedback and implement some improvements based on that feedback. And I wanted to highlight the portal because that's a good example of some of the feedback we've received and some improvements we're able to make. The Kickstart was not highlighted on the portal. I think the city manager, that was her, found that. So we've added those things. We've identified some other piece of the online permitting services that we are working to improve. We've also done some things like started interdepartmental meetings to talk about permits and projects. So there's been a lot of effort into gathering additional feedback and working on our internal process.
I'll just make a comment about the portal specifically. I mean, I know we're doing some work, to improve in there, but I think, the portal's a great idea. Having people do things online is a great idea, but if they don't know how to use it,
Yeah,
or they're not confident about how to use it, then it
Yeah.
doesn't do anybody any good.
that's right.
And so I think we have to take it, which I know we're starting to do, we have to take it upon ourselves, to provide training,
Yes.
and if we have to, step
Yeah, that's
people
right.
through. I was in the courthouse today, I had to renew a license, and the fella in front of me, was, I just overheard him, he's talking about renewing his license, and the lady said, well, you can, you can write a check, or you can do it online, and he said, I don't want anything to do with online.
Yeah.
So there's, not everybody thinks that way, but it's not intuitive
Yeah.
to a lot of people, and I think we have to take it upon ourselves to provide support.
And to that point, the team has already been looking at ways to either create or utilize some already created tutorial videos and put them up as well. That steps through what that came out of, conversation that we had as a team meeting a couple weeks ago, and so they're beginning to look at that as well.
And then we did add a position to the budget this year for kind of that permitting liaison. And so that's something, that I could see a role that position potentially assisting with as well.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
One comment, and that is, just, I know on the process, and we've mentioned this a couple times, but they talk about information gathering where we get information from the public, listening and community feedback. I mean, just make a comment, that there's ways to get a hold of all of us. I know my phone number's on city website and all. So, I mean, anyone has anything, I do answer the phone and I answer emails, and I'm sure everyone else here does too. So we're always in a listening mode. So sometimes people say, well, they did this and, they didn't really ask me about it and all. And I mean, just people have an opportunity to express their opinions on things. So that's just kind of a blanket comment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. So wanted to focus on inclusion next. So we have the Human Rights Commission that is populated and functioning. They had their fair housing luncheon this spring that over 150 people attended. I thought that was very successful. I know several of you were there as well. We have our DE&I specialist. She just hit her 6-month mark, so she's been really hitting the ground running with getting some certifications, doing presentations, helping with recruitment, city recruitment into city positions. So, now she's really going to be looking at, in addition to partnering with agencies, working through our internal training and different trainings that will be required of city employees, that type of thing. So she just hit her 6-month mark. I think she's done a lot in the 6 months, but we have a long way to go and a lot more work to do.
I was excited. I think yesterday I received a flyer in Messenger, and the city is a part of the First Heritage Week that's coming up. And I thought that was great. I think it's October the 5th.
I think at the Civic Center.
At the Civic, October the 5th, from 2 to 5.
Oh, it's different, yeah, still right.
Yeah, and I just thought that was great. That was exciting to see.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, just have a couple more little information to go over. I did want to talk about some promotional efforts related to the commission priorities. One has been ongoing. That's, of course, the mental health awareness. We did a second bus wrapping. We had some social media campaign that reached over 20,000 people. So that, and then we, of course, work internally with our employees. So that's a commission priority that I think has pretty good traction, and wanted to highlight the bus wrapping. Also wanted to highlight a new initiative. This is new this year, called What Makes Paducah Special. So our communications manager put out a survey, and we received 78 responses. And she's looking at starting a campaign with 17 testimonials from city residents about what makes Paducah special. And so when I was kind of filtering through what she's planning to highlight, it talks about Paducah being friendly and charming and historic and all those things that we really think about with our community. So you'll see a campaign this fall hearing from city residents about what makes Paducah special.
Very good, because it is a very special community, so.
And then finally, I just wanted to hit, a couple of high-level highlights that I think get lost sometimes. So when we were adopting the budget, there was, we always staff, before we bring you a proposed budget, we always go through the commission priorities and allocate resources. So we have $11 million for funding for commission priorities in this new fiscal year. I wanted to highlight $5 million for outside funding for priorities. So that includes the build grant from the state, and that's just kind of the new money we've received recently. So the build grant, the Hotel Metropolitan with Mellon Foundation, that doesn't include the Paul Brun grant we just got. So that's a moving target, but I wanted to highlight those two large items. I wanted to mention that we've had, over 500 interactions on the Greenway Trail Master Plan. That's the public participation part is really important for that project. We're putting a significant amount of effort into that. And then, I want to mention the private development from Southside incentives of about $700,000 when you put the residential and the commercial businesses together. So it's just some nice numbers for you to kind of wrap up our mid-year where we are right now. And, on the commission priorities, I did want to mention too, that $11 million, I didn't call it out separately, but that does include the stormwater project over on 24th Street. There's the detention basin, and then some street improvements that I think Paducah Water may be over there already working. I was over there earlier this week. So it does also include funding for a stormwater project.
That it?
That's it. The full report's available online, unless there's anything anyone else wants to hit that I didn't mention.
This is good. Looks good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michelle. I know you ride herd on the commission priorities, and we all appreciate that because we go through a significant effort,
Yep.
to try to get us all together on those, and appreciate your help.
Well, thank you.
support.
It's a team effort with the whole organization for
Right.
sure. So, thank you.
Okay, great. We'll turn to comments. Any comments from our city manager?
Mayor and Commission, you'll get some more information, but just want to let you know, late yesterday, we received, or I received notice from HUD that we are being considered under the CDBG program to be listed in fiscal year '25 as an entitlement community, which is very very few communities in the Commonwealth actually reach that status. And basically what it does, it looks at the Metropolitan Statistical Area, or MSA, and it's grown to such a number that we meet the threshold now to where under the Community Development Block Grant program, if approved, we would be eligible for direct appropriations from HUD on an annual basis. And so that's pretty exciting. It talks about the growth of our region and the community in relationship to that, because you do have to have that number. And we'll be bringing something at the October 8 for you to officially act on that. But we're excited to announce that looks like at least we're being considered for the fiscal year '25 budget to be listed as a CDBG entitlement community. And if that comes to fruition, then probably an additional $450,000 in the next fiscal year that we would come in for CDBG-related activities, and we would not have to be competitive for those dollars. And so that's the CDBG program has at its basis 80% directed towards low to moderate income individuals to do projects in that area, but there's some national priorities that hit along with that, and so.
So that would that focus on the housing authority, or?
No,
or
it would
could
come
be-
to us, but we could do different projects. It would not go to the housing. It would be.
Okay.
So right now, we have to make an application to the state. We're in a small cities program is what it's considered, and we have to be competitive with other communities across the Commonwealth we make an application to the Department of Local Government for those types. Used to be, housing initiatives years ago. The city did a lot of CDBG programs under that. So it would not, again, as a direct appropriation, we still have some work to do. We have to put together some comprehensive planning and things like that, but it does free up our ability to get some of those funds and direct appropriations. So I was excited and pleasantly surprised to get that yesterday.
So maybe if we're going to have to approve it on October 8th, maybe you could give us some.
I'll be sending out some more
information about how we might use it,
Yep.
so we could get wrap our heads around it a little bit.
Hope's been working on a few slides for me, and I'll be distributing that tomorrow afternoon to you.
Okay, great. Comments from any commissioners? Okay, we do have an executive session tonight, and we're going to go into executive session, and I do anticipate an action in coming out. So I would ask our city clerk, please read the motion.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to go into closed session for discussion of matters pertaining to the following topic: a specific proposal by a business entity where public discussion of the subject matter would jeopardize the location, retention, expansion, or upgrading of a business entity as permitted by KRS 61.8101G.
So moved.
Second.
Call roll.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye.
Give the second for, make sure the video is back on for our public out there, and that we are back in regular session, having exit executive session. And Madam Clerk, we have a resolution to read.
Yeah. Please read the resolution.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners adopt a municipal order entitled, "A Municipal Order Acknowledging the Intent of the Paducah Board of Commissioners to Authorize the Mayor and City Manager to Negotiate in Good Faith a Development Agreement with National Hospitality, LLC, for the construction of a hotel on certain real property currently owned by the City of Paducah, with said development agreement to be presented at a future date to the Board of Commissioners for determination of final action."
So moved.
Second.
So let's just discuss it a little bit. This is a hotel that we're very excited about it. It'll be located next to the Holiday Inn. It's on property that the city owns. The anticipation, is that it'll be 120 rooms. And we haven't finalized it yet, but we are working very closely to get this finalized soon. And I think it confirms the growth, that this community is having, and also the impact that the Paducah Sports Park is going to have on the need for hotel rooms going forward. So it's very positive for the community. It's positive for all of us. Any comments from anybody else?
Comments? Okay.
And the official location, as it is under the McCracken County PVA, is 519 North 3rd Street.
Okay, please call roll.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Call roll.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye.